I'm Henry DuBay. I hail from Massachusetts, and I went into the Air Corps, U.S. Army Air Corps, in uh, July 1941, before Pearl Harbor. Okay, so my duties there were painting the insignia on warplanes, P-40s, the old P-40s. And then they sent me to flying school. In flying school, I was on the railroad going down the Pacific coast, and we went through 5 days after Pearl Harbor. We were traveling on this train, and Japanese brought a sub right up to the Pacific coast, and they were shelling below LA. We were on that train. I think that was the scariest I ever was in World War II. I had other experiences, but there was no place to run. So flying school, and then over to we flew the plane behind me, the C-47, down to Brazil and then to the Azores, and we landed in North Africa, Casablanca, and spent about 9-10 months in North Africa, then Sicily, then Italy, and Gibraltar up to England, and we trained. There was a lot of training going on all the time, continuous training. So we were flying paratroopers and troop towing gliders, also ammunition and fuel. So that's all I did. This was the big airline plane. They didn't have any planes that would fly across the ocean. This wouldn't fly across the ocean unless it took a devious route like Azores or something like that, because it couldn't get enough fuel. So they stripped these planes, took all the cabins out, loaded the full length of the plane with fuel tanks, and that's how we flew over to the Azores. And carried 30 passengers, but about 26 paratroopers, because they had a lot of heavy equipment. I guess the nicest memory was flying back from France back to England. We flew over the tulip fields in Holland, and it was mile after mile of different colored tulips. That was a beautiful sight. But in the bridge too far, a plane like this was hit by a shell, and the howitzer shells would not explode below 3,000 feet. Well, we were flying below 3,000 feet, what could still go through the wings or the fuselage. And leave a hole in the plane about that big. Yeah, and the plane in front of me got hit by one, and it went straight in. And about 20 years ago, I opened the newspaper, and it says, 12-year-old Dutch boy with an metal detector going around. He dug up the dog tags of that plane I saw shot down. We woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, got out to the airport. The whole airport was loaded with infantry troops ready to get on the plane. Paratroopers and gliders. Yeah, at 6 in the morning. And the planes, all the planes from one end of England to the other end had been painted with these black stripes that you see on the fuselage and on the wing. They did that overnight. Half of the trip across the North Sea was pretty standard, arranging, getting in formation and so on. But then the weather, as we approached France, the weather was closing in, and then there was a lot of fumes from gunfire and everything, so visibility was poor. We had navigators on the plane, but they got lost. Our navigators got lost. So we didn't know where we were. Did not know where we were. So we had to drop the paratroopers when the signal came, but that was about 15 miles off the target. I have fond memories when I was a young kid, just 5 years old, or 6, 7 years old. My dad always introduced me to Civil War veterans. I knew about 20 of them. So I go out of my way to meet young kids, shake their hands, and when they're 90, they would say, "Hey, I knew a World War II veteran." The strangest thing I ever saw in my life. Strangest. Well, two things. The war is over, and I've been overseas and in combat and so on. So I'm the first group to come back to the States, and we get on this a troop transport to take us back, a ship, but they did not know whether the U-boat commanders had gotten the message that the war was over. So all the way back from Liverpool, not Southampton to Boston, we had torpedo drills. Yeah, because the war wasn't over for me. I arrived in Bismarck, North Dakota, where my dad was an officer at Fort Lincoln. That's where General Custer left from. See? Well, there was a internment camp, prisoner of war camp for Germans, Italians, and Japanese. So I was still at war. And lo and behold, the Japanese were still launching these hot air balloons with bombs on them, and a lot of them were landing in North Dakota. So I was still at war. We land in, we get back in the States, and put us on a train and take us to Fort Snelling, and everybody has called home. And there were maybe 700 people on the troops on the train. Well, there must have been 3,000 at this train station to meet us, whooping and cheering, the mothers and the sweethearts and children and the grandparents and fiancés and everything. Happy, happy, happy day, and everybody was whooping it up. I look over on the other track, and that track was loaded with military to go to San Diego and to go over to Japan. And over on that train, everybody was crying like babies. So what a contrast. Laughter here, bawling like babies over here. That's the strangest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Yeah.